Construction Big Breakfast, where we give you a hearty serving of insider tips and business strategies to help fuel your day so you can thrive in the construction industry. Now, here's your host from Invennt.
Welcome to another edition of the Construction Big Breakfast, and today our special guest is Brandon from Procore. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning, Ben. Thanks for having me, mate.
So it's good to have you. It's good to have you, and it's good to use this as a platform to launch our new partnership, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail later. But the more important thing is for you to introduce yourself and Procore a little bit, and obviously the most important question of the day, got to get it in first because otherwise I'll forget to ask, is what did you have for breakfast?
It's a good question, and as we were prepping for this, I think I let you know that I'm not much of a breakfast guy. So I had one of the biggest breakfasts that I normally do, if I am having one, which was a smoothie today. And I wasn't planning on having breakfast, but I told my girlfriend this morning that I was on a breakfast podcast, and she insisted I must eat something in order to qualify. So, yeah, we had a what's it called? A banana bread smoothie. So it's got bananas, dates, oats, and milk, and it's amazing.
Oh, cool. And you generally don't, because you're a intermittent faster. That's your sort of go-to health diet, is it?
Yeah, it's my go-to. It's hard to restrict any food, especially traveling on the road, entertaining. So the easiest thing to do is just skip breakfast and be a little bit more strict on when you eat. And ever since a kid, I've never really been hungry in the morning. So it's just been a pretty natural progression, easy for me.
Quite an easy thing for you to do then.
That said, when we're not in lockdown, I do love an Eggs Benedict. It's typically around brunch time, but okay. That's my go-to.
All right, well, if we're ever allowed to actually socially meet for breakfast, I'll make sure that we meet somewhere. Our go-to place is the Delaunay down near Holborn. There's fantastic, everything is fantastic, but the Eggs Benedict is quite good as well. So we'll make sure to meet there. My breakfast is the same as sort of most days, porridge, a few grapes, bananas, that type of stuff. So trying to keep it healthy while we're in lockdown. So that's the breakfast done. A bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Procore to kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brandon Oliveri-O'Connor, Director of UK and Ireland for EMEA at Procore. Procore is a construction management software platform. I've been with Procore for nearly 5 years now, which is incredible. It's gone by fast. The first 2 years were focused on our US business. At the time, we were only based in California, had a couple different offices there, and we're looking to expand our reach. So I was a founding member of our Austin, Texas office, employee 5 in Austin. We are now at over 500, just 5 years later. When I left after 2 years, we were at 150. So a 2-year growth journey from 5 to 150 people. Obviously, a lot of bumps, scrapes, bruises, and some victories. So lots of lessons along the way. And at that stage, we were really focused on our globalization efforts. So expanding outside of the US, and was lucky to take all those learnings and help support our teams overseas. So spent a few months in Australia, helping our Vice President, Tom Karamacher, as he was launching into the business. Did the same for Jazz Sarah in Canada and spent some time in Vancouver. And then in mid-2018, officially made the leap across the pond to the UK, which was supposed to be a short stint, build the team, make some quick hires, and pick up and do it again. And I absolutely fell in love with the region, fell in love with the area, and decided to stick around. So I've been here ever since.
Even the weather, I mean, it's a bit different to Texas.
I will say that growing up in California, living in Texas, it was a bit of an adjustment, but luckily for my role, I get to travel quite a bit. So I'm overseas and in the US and back home with family in California quite a bit. So I get the weather time that I need at least.
Oh, there you go. And coming from California, then, are you a bit of a surfer or anything like that?
I'm not, no. So I grew up inland, so appreciate surf and the beach. And though it was only 40-minute drive away, we didn't go very often, as sad as it is.
No, so I grew up on an island, in Wales, in North Wales, Anglesey, and it's not a very big island. It's sort of at its longest, it's about 25 miles. So, you know, we've got beaches all around. And I never went, really. We'd go for maybe once or twice a year, if that, and it was just like literally drive past it every day, but you would never actually go there. You just take,
it's one of those things.
Don't think, do you? It's there. I mean, it took me 18 years to climb Snowdon.
Okay.
Yeah, you just don't take advantage of these things on your doorstep, do you?
Exactly. It's like Alcatraz in San Francisco. I went for the first time a couple years ago, and everyone I knew that visited California went. They were always asking, how's Alcatraz? I was like, I have no clue. I've never been.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? How you just don't think to, you know, it's just there. We can go tomorrow, next week, next year, whatever, and it never quite happens.
The convenience.
So our partnership is sort of why this podcast came around, and our partnership actually started in Canada, although obviously we're both here in the UK. But it's amazing how these things can sort of can grow, like Procore has around the world. So we met Jazz through the Canadian Construction Association around a year ago, give or take, and had a few conversations when we've been going back and forth. But a few months ago, so around Christmas time, we actually moved into the same building in Toronto, and that's helped us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was partly, we were looking, and I was like, well, WeWork makes sense for us because of the flexibility. Where do we go? And I was like, well, it's right next to Union Station. Procore are there anyway, so it's good to have someone that you know in the building. And so we've completely stalked you, moved in.
I was just going to say, is that why you're always outside our door there when we have customers coming in?
Than it actually is. But that certainly helped sort of speed up the conversation. And as we sort of grew our sort of relationship with the CCA, our SR&ED offering over there, and we started getting demos of Procore, it was quite exciting for us to see the opportunity that Procore provided our customers and potential future customers to really sort of nail that data gathering side of things for us. You know, really sort of understand what people are doing on projects, when are they doing it, how are they doing it, and getting that documentation in place. And for those sort of regular listeners of our podcast, you'll know that sort of R&D in the UK and SR&ED in Canada are very important to us, because it is a great opportunity for customers to leverage what they do to get more cash in the business. And we're very keen to show construction in the fantastic light that it can be. We are a far more innovative.
It should be.
Exactly. And I'm sure you see that with your customers, how innovative that they actually are. They just don't realize it. They're just problem solvers naturally by day, and they just go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And to be fair, I wasn't, I didn't come up with that understanding. I'm not from the industry. I grew up in the middle of Silicon Valley. Apple's headquarters was on my, doorstep. So for me, growing up, technology was the only answer, was the only path to go, right? And construction was swinging a hammer. And there was no discussion around it in the Bay Area, right? And there's incredible buildings, incredible developments going on, but we were all just so much in our own silo, right? We didn't ever talk about it. So when I first joined Procore 5 years ago, and I started meeting customers and those in the industry that are working at Procore, it was a huge eye-opening for me. And that these are some of the most innovative, the most educated people in our world, tackling some of the most difficult challenges that we all are just completely blank to. We don't see it. We don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I think as an industry, we don't do ourselves justice, but also I feel that it's partly because we're sort of a system of industries, a system of systems. People just think of construction as, the guy that does their extension, replaces their windows. They can't differentiate between that and some of the sort of the amazing things that we do in the large scale infrastructures, the large buildings, things like some of the stadiums being built in California at the moment, especially, are just out of this world. The unbelievable sort of mesh of technology, construction, and a real emphasis on creating an environment and an opportunity for people to massively enjoy themselves so much more than ever before.
Yeah.
And it's great. I've actually been doing some work recently, reading up on something one of our customers is doing about human-centric design.
Okay.
And it's a sort of really sort of shift in mindset from not building a building to be a building, but really sort of going, well, what does the human need and want? What is it that that individual requires the building to be, and how do we design for that? So a real sort of change and shift in the mindset of how you go about. So, I mean, how did you end up was it just the technology then that interested you in Procore, or were you sort of interested in seeing how, or did you want to disrupt an industry? What attracted you to Procore in the first place?
Yeah, all of what you just mentioned were definitely up there. To be honest, like the single biggest contributing factor to me joining Procore was blind faith and an incredible leader. So I had worked at a big data company prior, had followed a very similar growth trajectory that Procore has now been on, employee 200 to 2000, IPO, all of that fun stuff. And a big portion of that journey, I was following Procore's now Chief Revenue Officer, and really helping him build out various different functions and groups within the business. So when he took his first 2-week vacation that I had seen him take in years, I realized something might be up, and shortly after he was joining Procore. So I stuck on him for a while, followed what they were doing, what we were doing, and understanding kind of what the impact was. And that's when I really started to learn more about the industry, learn more about the technology, and what ultimately sold me, aside from Dennis and the great leader he is, and trusting his judgment in this business, but it was the ability to disrupt a vertical industry. Right, construction specifically was really exciting, but the way that I thought about it, we're seeing the world, and right now is very evident of that, get much more specialized, right? And I thought that what we saw from investments in venture capital and kind of the next big unicorns that were coming up, they weren't the big horizontal businesses like Salesforce that could serve every industry. It was more so going towards a very industry specific, vertical focused technology solution, so you can really know your customers and drive the biggest impact. So that's what got me excited about Procore. And 5 years ago, it was the drawings tool. Today, it's the analytics tool and all of the stuff with driving value from the data rather than capturing. And it's really followed the journey that I think we all envisioned.
So how have you seen the industry change over that 5 years that you've been involved?
Yeah, it's funny. I go back to like the first customers that we went and saw, and the Procore's drawings tool on mobile. While today it's absolutely incredible, 5 years ago it was cutting edge. It was new. Nobody else had it, right? And it was the showstopper. So we'd go to demonstrate. We'd show the drawings tool, being able to connect all of your communication and collaboration off of that, and it was a done deal. Today, going into meetings, that's table stakes. Right? Everyone expects that, even if they're not using that type of technology. So what we've seen is in the last 5 years, data capture was really the forefront and the very beginning of what I saw the value and interest from the customer. Today, it's data utilization, right? Now it's extracting value from the data. So Procore's made investments into a couple of different companies that allow that. One specifically is a Construction BI, which is now Procore's analytics tool, which allows you to bring in Procore data amongst all other data sets you have in your business and do real-time data capture, analytics, insights, driving visualization. And that is what we're seeing more and more customers want and need. And I think it's a natural progression that we expected and are very proud to see come to fruition.
No, it's good. I mean, I've said for a while that as an industry, we are data rich and knowledge poor. We're very good at measuring, and I'm a QS by background, so measuring.
Yeah. Measure.
Yeah. But why? We've never been very good at understanding why and what you're going to do with it ultimately at the end of it. How can you sort of benchmark it for increasing productivity, improving the next? How are you measuring your outcomes and understanding, well, was that the right thing to build? Are my end users happy? Things like that. Things that I guess you guys as a tech company do all the time. Measuring end user satisfaction, measuring sort of that understanding of how many people are using it, when are they using it, why are they using it. These are things we should be measuring about our buildings. We don't particularly. We're getting better at it. We're getting better at understanding, well, if we can create a better building, it creates greater value. So, you know, we can sell it for, you know, quicker, easier, or for a higher rate, potentially.
Absolutely.
Rather than sort of, you know, some run-of-the-mill standard building.
Or enhance the building before it breaks, right? All of the predictive IoT is really interesting right now, right? And you saw it happen in automotive before any other industry. And, you know, Tesla, for example, they know by the day when their door handle is going to break on every single Tesla based off of usage and how often you're touching it, right? And they can call you and say, bring it to the shop before it breaks. It's supposed to break in the next 12 days, right? Yeah. That's incredible.
So I'm heavily involved with an organisation called Constructing Excellence here in the UK, and I've been judging the digital award for the last couple of years. And a couple of years ago, there was this client, and they'd gone really sort of data centric. So let's measure everything, it's a silly story, but they worked out they could save 20 or 30,000 pounds, I think it was, by moving where their toilet roll holder was.
So what data were they capturing for that, Ben?
It was just maintenance costs, but it wasn't until it all sort of got amalgamated and, you know, was analysed properly that they saw that actually their maintenance people were on a daily basis replacing 2 or 3 of these. They managed old people homes, so people were sort of pushing down on it and sort of ripping it off, trying to help themselves off. So it's quick change in design, maybe using slightly more expensive materials initially, but you're saving yourself a fortune. And it's not until you can collate that data and change it into sort of knowledge and understanding that they could find that little nugget. And it's a silly little story, but I think it really sort of emphasizes.
It definitely emphasizes it, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so you've already sort of touched upon sort of we've sort of joked about it a little bit, but we're obviously in quite unique times at the moment with everything that's going on. How have you seen sort of the impact of COVID in sort of how people, you know, did you get that initial rush of everyone going, oh, I need something, how do I work my construction site? Oh, I'll just buy Procore. Did you get that initial rush? Was it sort of, were you telling people to slow down a bit and think about what they needed?
Yeah, it's been a really, like everybody, it's been a roller coaster. Obviously, we're all going through that emotionally. Our businesses are feeling it. But I would even say the response from our customers and our prospective customers, our clients across the board, are on that same roller coaster journey in terms of evaluating technology. So we had our highest pipeline generating month in regional history in the month of April. Right. And a lot of that was off the backs of what you just described, right? High interest in technology, understanding what's out there, what's available. A handful of clients that raised their hand in a matter of days from seeing their first demo and decided to take a leap and join Procore as a partner. So we've seen some great success there. However, we've also seen what everyone else is seeing in the industry, I think, a huge reservation of cash, right? Procurement cycles shutting down, people pausing, holding, waiting. So it's funny, even just yesterday, I was chatting with a fellow colleague across the pond and sharing that we feel like we've never been busier. We're not seeing it necessarily from the top line business metrics you would normally expect and attribute this busyness to and this effort to, but we think it's coming. There's been a lot of clients and folks that have been investing heavily in the evaluation cycle. And what we're finding is oftentimes the interest is just as high as it's always been, but a lot more of it's focused on collaboration than ever before. So, for example, when COVID really started becoming more of a reality, at the end of March, we had customers begging for a Zoom integration. Zoom happens to be just down the street from our headquarter office, and we have very great executive relationships. And we were able to, in a matter of days, I think it was something like 3 days, push out a Zoom integration in the site diary, in the meetings tool, and other tools to respond to that. And I think that's kind of the second, point I want to make. At the top level, in the top of the funnel, if you will, people interested in buying technology, we've seen that. But we've also seen our customers focusing on utilizing the technology at a much higher rate, right? So how do we get more out of Procore, which has been incredible because we offer so much and oftentimes much more than clients fully take advantage of. And I think this was a wake-up call in that, oh my gosh, we're spending this money, it solves us here, here, and here, and we didn't realize we had these problems that Procore solves for. So our customer success teams have been busier than ever, doing new trainings and helping people spend the time to add more products to their SKUs and help them understand how best to use the technology we already offered them to drive more efficient results, which has been really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's been one of the issues with sort of whole-scale adoption of technology in the industry is people go out and buy things, then they sort of take it home and they open the box and they go, oh shit, I don't know what any of that is.
Yeah.
And they don't really think about what they actually need, what the cultural change requirement is. You know, at the end of the day, technology is a tool. People are the key things. And, you know, so, we do sort of digital strategies and help people implement things and stuff like that. And people are sometimes initially surprised when so little of it is actually about technology.
It's change management.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, well, no, you need the people, the process, the culture. Otherwise, like, they'll tell you to buy something, it'll just end up on the shelf in 6 months. You need to understand, like you say, how do I utilize this? What are my problems, and what is the answer then that I need to find?
I'm really curious, before moving on, what have you seen? How have you seen this impact your business, and how are you all responding?
Yeah, I mean, a bit like you, it's actually turning into potentially quite a good sort of business period for us. We are sort of management consultants, so we're often the nice to have. But now companies are almost making us a must-have. You know, things like SR&ED and R&D can give you that cash injection. You know, fair play to the CRA in Canada and HMRC here in the UK. They're turning things around quite quickly, sort of a month to 6 weeks. So sort of getting good injections there. And people are really going, well, what does the future hold for me? What do I need to look at? So sort of that strategy side of things, that sort of productivity improvement and performance management, all those type of things. And now conversations people are realizing should be at the heart of what they do, rather than the sort of the nice to haves. So there's a real shift towards that thinking. What will be interesting for both of us in many ways is, will it last, or will people just sort of go back? You know, we keep talking about the new norm. Some people hate talking about the new norm.
But have you noticed nobody's talked about Brexit in about 3 months?
No, which is nice, but at the same time, you know, it'll be interesting, won't it? I mean, it's all going to come to a head at some point. Yeah. Got that issue, COVID carrying on, because who knows how long COVID will be here with. You know, is it going to be here for another 6 months, 18 months, or is it just a forever thing and we've got to work out how to live with it, which sounds sort of the most likely, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, we've been, you know, with our Canada business, it's mainly been me and our director Tim sort of going back and forth every 6 weeks. So we've had to quickly change sort of culturally how we do things. But yeah, Teams is our sort of main go-to, but Zoom as well. You know, other than time difference making it a bit of an issue, the technology's really enabled us to carry on, and hopefully people will just realize that going backwards isn't the right way. You know, going back to normal is going backwards.
It could be the catalyst that the industry needed in terms of tech adoption and really taking that leap of faith. And it very much is a leap of faith. And I think your points highlighted before are so true. Technology is just the tool. What needs to change more often than not is the culture, right? And what needs to change is the process. And that's not easy, right? You've got an industry that's been successful for hundreds of years, right?
Though I mean, we've forever been known as sort of the low margin industry, the industry that's hard to make money. You've got to really grind for your pennies and stuff like that. So it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, we've been successful in many ways because, you know, some amazing buildings have been built around the world, amazing infrastructure, You look at London and, you know, you see some of the historic buildings and the modern buildings. It's amazing. But as an industry, we struggle to make money. So have we ever actually been successful?
Exactly. Yeah. You raise a good point. My point was that we've been successful in achieving the goals of the business, which is build buildings, right?
Yeah,
but we've never driven forward and, you know, increased the margin. Really, if you look over the last 100 years, it's always been a struggle. And yeah, that margin's raising, but it's still razor thin. So we need to drive forward the change management, the cultural changes with technology. And I think that, you know, this current environment was the catalyst to bring all of that to a head, like you mentioned, right? And I think people are starting to raise their heads up and say, how are we going to solve for this? How could we have been better prepared for this situation? And technology is going to be just a portion of that. And I think it's my hope, and we're an optimistic business. It's one of our values. We're optimistic that this is going to be, you know, something that progresses the industry forward, in the world for that matter.
Yeah, hopefully, and yeah, like you say, the world. I mean, most countries are looking at it as a real opportunity to, you know, push forward with the carbon agenda and really understand, can we change the way, you know, I saw New Zealand are looking at adopting a 4-day week maybe. Which, funny, my first job was a 4-day week.
Really? What was that?
I used to work in the nuclear decommissioning industry, and because you had so many people traveling from so many different places, people would work extended hours to go home on a Thursday night anyway. Just made the 4-day week standard for staff, and it was long days, but it was great having that sort of longer week. The problem came when not everyone was on the 4-day week. So you either had loads of people working overtime on and, you know, double rates on a Friday and stuff like that. Then it wasn't. So it was a good idea, but it wasn't fully sort of implemented and thought through properly. So there were a few sticking points here and there, but it was great. I mean, it'll be interesting whether, I mean, do you think there's sort of another disruptive technology or a disruptive company that's just round the corner? We see, you know, in the States, we've heard a lot about Katera and what they did over there. Toronto was all about the impact Sidewalks Lab was having until they pulled out a couple of weeks ago. So you've got lots of things that are almost happening. But do you think this is the real drive for them to really make a push, or will it be traditional companies that will change and push it forward?
It's a great question. I think that we're going to see a lot of those new cutting edge construction companies born out of this, whether they're, you know, new unique operations or they're departments within some of the legacy builders. I don't know, but I think this is going to cause a lot of people to raise their heads and sniff some business ideas that they want to go and build. I think from a product perspective and from what we're offering in industry, I think we're going to see further collaboration, which is something we're really proud of, and best-in-class software that are solving unique challenges work together to build you know, a unique platform, which is something Procore's built our business off of. You know, we've got over 100 plus partner integrations, and some of these tools solve very niche issues that our R&D team would never have invested time or money into. However, they're massive game changers for our business and for our clients' business, and we need to find ways to work closely with them. So I think that you're going to see the tools and the technology companies find more ways to add value together for their clients rather than continuing to, you know, work in their own silos in their own individual boxes.
I think what will be interesting is a lot of, especially the larger companies, have historically, they might have seen something and gone, I'll build that for myself, trying to create a competitive advantage by just doing it themselves. Whereas hopefully there'll be that shift in business model realization that, like you say, well, actually, if I do this really well and just sort of maximize and leverage what they do really well, it's actually better for everyone. Hopefully we can sort of shift that mindset to, like you say, a more collaborative way of sharing sort of what we're all good at and coming together for the greater good. So we'll see.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Do our best to make it happen.
Yeah, so that's our sort of so our half hour. So we will sort of wrap it up there. Otherwise, we'll be told off by Sarah that we've gone on too long. So Brandon, it's been great having you. It's been a really interesting conversation. I'm really excited about our partnership, how Procore can help our customers sort of better manage their R&D claim process, collect the data that they need to make it sort of a really efficient process, and hopefully as well that we can sort of spread the message and get Procore customers to realize that what they do is fantastic, and they should be looking at the SR&ED and R&D program as an opportunity to get cash as well. So it's been great. We'll maybe have proper breakfast at some point. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
It's been a pleasure, Ben. Thank you again for having me. And yeah, really, really excited to for this to launch this partnership officially. It's a critical time for our clients, unique clients together, and hope that they can take advantage of what we're offering together. If you're interested in learning anything more about Procore, we're here. Just reach out and we'd be happy to chat with you all further.
Yeah, fantastic. And when this goes on YouTube, we'll put the Procore website and things like that in the bio and all that. So
excellent,
fantastic. Thank you very much. And for everyone else, stay safe and see you all again soon.
Stay safe, everybody. Take care. Thank you, Ben.
Come to Invennt for the highest R&D tax credit you can claim. We help construction businesses get back millions in tax credits every year. Contact us today for a free review. Thanks for joining us this week on the Construction Big Breakfast. Make sure to visit our website, www.inventt.com, where you can subscribe to the Construction Big Breakfast on all platforms so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a positive rating. Or if you'd simply share it with a friend, that would help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.